Today I have a brand new RC airplane to fly. So it's the Prime Tundra from Durafly. It's just been released, and actually I bought this one by chance because I always wanted to try a Tundra from Durafly. And I just saw this model, so I placed an order, and then like the day after I saw that it was a model just to be released. So I guess I have just one of the first one to purchase this one. So first off, let's go into a build and an unbox of this Prime Tundra before we do a flight on this one. So once the box is open, the first item you are presented with is a quick sheet with some information on this foam and a sticker piece, and then you can access the wing. So this wing does feature flaps and ailerons, stickers and everything is mounted. It's kind of a standard foam quality. Here you have the mounting points for the 4 screws to hold the main wing. I mean, it's a okay looking design. Here you have thankfully a stripe, which is really nice, and here you have the servos for the flaps and also the ailerons, and then the leads and the Y cables are already attached to these two. And here you have the attacher point to mount the wing strut also. So that's the wing. And then by removing, as usual, 2 more foam pieces, I think you can, it's a bit of a tight fit, so maybe I can just grab it by the tail. Yeah, that worked much better. So everything is securely seated in some additional soft foam, and here you have the tail section, mounting point. There the rudder is already mounted, mounting point for the horizontal stabilizer, and also the linkage. So I mean, pretty standard. And here are mounting points to mount floats. So this the forward one is used for landing gears, and use both to mount floats. And a few scuff marks, maybe from packaging, I don't know. That's always a little bit sad. And then you have the prop adapter and spinner nut as well. So this one is a top feeder. So you have access to the battery compartment, and it's held by a magnet. There's also the ESC, an Aerostar 30 amp reversing ESC. And there's 2 Velcro pieces attached to the bottom, and here you have the gyro, and you can also see the servos. So the gyro is already mounted, which is good. You don't have to figure out in which direction you're supposed to put the gyro in. And very popular is to have to fly FPV, and then you have this battery hatch where you can use an FPV camera. Something I never do because I want to see my RC airplane. I just want to see a front spinning prop. So I think FPV is nothing I would like. And then you have a package with the prop, the wing struts, and also a screwdriver. Some pieces to hold the rubber bands if you need to use this one with the rubber bands. And then we have these wheels, which are just foam wheels, painted foam wheels. So that is something I initially don't like. Maybe they will just work great, but I much prefer soft rubber tires or foam tires. And there's also a distance piece on the back, so I guess they will work fine nevertheless. And here's a package with the tail wheel, rubber bands, a few screws, everything you need to assemble this RC airplane, hopefully. And then let's see, I can get this one out. It's the landing gear bracket. There are already nuts mounted on each axle. Quite sturdy also. And then we have the horizontal, this is the plastic pieces that goes on top of the wing to put rubber bands. I won't use this one today. And here are the horizontal stab pieces. So you do have a stripe underneath and some matching stickers on the top side, and you connect these like this to have them aligned, and here the ball link also. So I mean, the first step then to assemble this one is to attach the landing gear. So there are 4 screws that holds the landing gear. I'm not really sure if it matters which direction you actually do put this one in, but here are one of the screws then. So I didn't think that the finish is perfect, but I suppose it will work okay anyway. So if you compare, like when you assemble most FMS or E-Flite RC airplanes, they are super easy and everything just fits together. There are very few screws, and usually they use the same head, for instance a 2mm hex head, so that's great. And it's also much better to use these hex screwdrivers and have a Phillips screwdriver or something similar, because if you have the wrong screwdriver, you will probably just rip the head of the screw. So I much prefer the hex drivers. But I mean, just a few turns and it's securely mounted. Then I'm about to attach the wheels. So you put the distance piece on the inner side, and then use this nut to secure the wheel. There are no washers, so I'm actually using a tool that I have for Traxxas RC cars. It's a 5.5mm head. It worked just fine. So just be sure to tighten this enough so that the wheel can freely spin. So this is too much. Just have to back off a little bit more. I suppose that's okay. So then go on to the next wheel then. So this is the screwdriver, 5.5mm. So I mean, it's the same procedure to mount the other side. Put the wheel on, and then you have this nut. Then it's time to mount the horizontal stabilizer. So here I already have the wing spar inserted. Just find the right hole on the tail section of the fuse and put it in all the way. And then use the other piece and align the swing spar, and just make sure that just a good fit and that the two elevator parts connect. So I'm going to use this included screwdriver instead of my regular screwdriver. So let's see if it works just as good. So it's like these tiny screws with like a built-in washer head. I mean, I really don't like these small screwdrivers, because I think if you have a longer screwdriver with a good head, it's much easier to screw things in. So there's one on each side. And these are kind of small screws, so it's a little bit fiddly to do it. But really not too many turns. Then we have one more screw to attach. So it's over here, it's a pretty tight space. And I wish this included screwdriver was magnetic, because I mean it's really fiddly just to get this one in. I suppose they could have done this in a better way, but I mean, this is to secure the end section. Well, I've dropped it again. The end section of the horizontal stab where the elevator is. So I will try another screwdriver then, my larger one. See if this one fits. No, it doesn't. So I mean, it's always difficult to find the right screwdriver, and I mean, this is a little bit more unnecessarily complicated to assemble. I mean, I shouldn't complain because there are not too many screws, but I mean, I'm just spoiled by E-Flite. So this one will hopefully work then. It's at least much longer and provide more grip than the included screwdriver. That's the rear piece mounted then. Next up we have the wing strut holder. So you use these plastic pieces and you have like tiny screws. So if you do disassemble the RC airplane when you haul it to your flying location, or if you want to store it without the wing attached, you use these holders to hold the wing struts. So there is one holder on each side. And I suppose that if you really would have liked to have a simple construction on this RC airplane, I think you could already included some sort of mounting point or already have these attached. But these do also hold the rear section on floats. They serve a dual purpose with these plastic pieces. And as usual, I mean, plastic is prone to breaking, so hopefully these will last. But when it comes to plastic, I'm a little bit skeptical actually. So it's time to mount the wing struts to the fuse mounting point. So these are labeled with left and right. This small screw with also a nut which you have to assemble, and this is also a tight spot. And this one uses a 1.5mm hex driver. So as you can see, it's a little bit fiddly, and I have to get an additional tool. So to hold this nut, I actually use these pliers. So this will make it fairly simple to attach, and this one uses a ball mount, so just tighten it pretty tight and then you're all good. Just a few more turns to have it securely mounted, but not over tighten it. Can still move freely. So then time for the other side. This is just a tight fit also. So these are labeled with right and left. Just to make sure you pick the right one for the right side. And you do look from the rear, so from the rear and looking forward on the RC airplane, it's where right and left is. Just making use of the wing strut hold then to hold this strut in place while I fetch the tools. So you should use the hex side on the underside and the nut side on the overside. So just make it as tight as the other side. So to show how these wing struts attach to these clips, and just pull them backwards and click them into place. Then we have the tail wheel. So this tail wheel is just slide it into the hole, and then you use 2 screws to secure it. So there is no bracket, just the screw head that actually hold this one in place. And this is also tiny screws a little bit more complicated than I would have liked. I think you could have solved this in a much better way. Then you have the other side as well to screw in. So just make sure to find the right screwdriver. I'm using a much larger one. It's easier to actually get a good grip on the head. Now it's securely mounted. So for the wing then, first off we have to mount all the cables coming from the gyro. This is the aileron cable, and every other cable is attached to the receiver. And this is an OrangeRX receiver, 6-channel receiver. So I have 2 antennas, and these are supposed to go into different angles. You put them on one horizontal, one vertical. So this one has to be glued inside the fuse. So once that is done, you can actually just put on the wing and attach the aileron cable. This one uses 4 screws to secure the wing. They are not hex head screws, and I had to use the included screwdriver to fit it inside the hole. So it takes a few turns, and what I would really like to have seen on this RC plane is use of only one screw head, and preferable a 2mm hex driver head on all screws. That would just be, fantastic. So I suppose this will work, and if you opt to mount it with the rubber bands, you have to attach a front and rear plastic piece to hold the rubber band, and also these plastic pieces mounted on top of the wing. But I prefer the sleek look without rubber bands, so I will use these screws. And even if you have rubber bands, you still have to attach the servo cables. I think it's a little bit messy, so this is a better solution. So the wing struts, as they are mounted to the fuse already, you more or less just have to fit them on the pin on the wing and then use this clip. And I really don't like these clips, but these are actually better than on some other RC airplanes, so they're not too bad. So the same thing then on the other side. So, I mean, if there would be some sort of quick release for the aileron and flap connector, this would be a really good solution, having a good, easy way to just take off the wing, but as is, it takes too much time to do everything. Then we have the propeller. This one uses no spinner, so you more or less just put the prop with the right side. This is going to be rotating counterclockwise, as all props on RC airplanes are, and then just put the nut in front of the prop and use a wrench, suitable sort, to secure it, and really not over tight, just make it tight enough. So that's more than enough. So everything is assembled and ready to go, so let's just head outside and do a maiden flight on this Prime Tundra. It's a really lovely day, a little bit chilly, but just after sunrise, and I have this Prime Tundra to fly. I've done just a few flights prior to this one to adjust a few things, just to center the surfaces and increase aileron authority. So let's get it up in the air then. So just by increasing throttle when you need the power, it responds well. I discovered this one doesn't roll too fast, so there are no snappy rolls. You can make really tight turns with using the rudder. And the speed for being a 3S high wing trainer is fine. So let's try the flaps then. I've done a 10% elevator mix for half flaps and 20% for full flaps, and it appears to be without ballooning, and this one does slow down and fly really steady. Of course, if you do push it with nose up and too slow speed, it will start to stall on you, but it does also warn you pretty early. So let's just do one more circle and do a landing and try these wheels out, because I'm really skeptical about these stiff, all solid foam wheels. And that was really bouncy. I think I had a really nice flared landing, but let's get it up again. So just as I suspected, the wheels are too stiff to actually provide a soft landing. There's no problem being quite agile in this tight space. So you can more or less just drive this like as an RC car. I'm not using the stabilizing mode on the gyro. I tried the gyro, but I just felt it was so limiting. So I decided to turn it off completely, so I don't even have the slight one. And this, you can see trying to do a knife edge circle. There's as usual some odd prop noise when I push the RC airplane. Not a really clean knife edge, but I think if I had a different location, I could probably do it in a better way. So I'm running this on a 2200 milliamp battery, and I tried also 1300 milliamp battery, which is more what the manual calls for, but I didn't notice any decreased performance when having the lighter battery inside. So I would just go for the 2200, and then you get like almost 2 minutes extra flight time, so that's a better option. And 2200 milliamp batteries are really common and cheap, so stick with these and you will be fine. You can expect maybe like 7 minutes of flight time, even if you do a bit more aerobatic flying, or at least mixed flying. So I really like the stripe on the wings, on the wing, because it makes orientation so easy. So I think the paint and color with the red nose is just excellent. So to tell orientation is just no problem. It's just easy peasy. Of course, I have a blue sky, and I'm quite close to where I'm standing, so orientation will be quite easy. But I really like stripes underneath any RC wing, and also on the rear stabilizer. So this is just excellent when it comes to how the stickers and paint is done on this one. And even quite slower flight, just a forgiving RC airplane. I have it set up with 100% throw on the ailerons, and I use 30% expo on the elevator and ailerons. Try to do a square loop, which wasn't really too clean, because this is far from being an aerobatic RC airplane. But flaps are deployed. I'm just going to get this one down, and prior flights just told me that it's really easy to fly slow with this one. You really don't need a gyro. Of course, when you do fly too slow, it will start to stall on you, so just keep up speed before you land. And I'm going to do a nice flare on this landing. As you can see, I mean, these wheels are just too stiff and too bouncy. I think they handle great when they just run on the ground, but for making smooth, soft landings, I think really you should replace the wheels. Let's check out some ground handling. I think it runs really good on the ground. It's much more stable than, for instance, something like the Timber X or Turbo Timber from E-Flite. So, I mean, that was the maiden day of this Prime Tundra. This Maiden went really well. I didn't have any real issues with this one. I think it handles great. It's not too snappy in maneuvers, which is a good thing if you're a beginner. But you surely can fly in tight spots, and I think when you use the rudder, you can make really tight turns with this one. It doesn't have any really bad stall tendencies to it. And when it does stall, because it does, when you fly slow and turn, it does also warn you. So it's quite easy to recover. And this is a really lightweight RC airplane. And in my experience, when you have a lightweight RC airplane, they are very forgiving, and you don't have to fight the RC airplane. They fly really easy. So I mean, this is in the same class as the FMS Super Easy, for instance, or the FMS Kingfisher, which are two really great flying RC airplanes. And of course, I could compare to these two, because I think the advantage of the Super Easy is that you have an RC airplane that is more agile and even more lightweight to fly. It does feel lighter when you fly it. You do also get the floats with the Super Easy, so I think that's an added bonus. And then if you compare to the FMS Kingfisher, the Kingfisher does also come with floats and skis. And the Kingfisher does feature flaps, and it's really slow flying, great flying RC airplane. And the wheels are actually much better on the Kingfisher. So if I would recommend something, I would certainly recommend the FMS Kingfisher over this one. Although I don't think there's anything wrong with this one. But just looking at the price, I think they are almost priced the same. But then again, on the Kingfisher you do get floats and skis, so that's a much better option in my opinion. What I liked about this one also is you have these stripes under the wing and the stab, which I think is really great for orientation. But I mean, you saw the landings, and these super stiff foam wheels, they are really poor choice from Durafly, because I don't know if, I mean, of course they are lightweight, but and probably they won't break. But I mean, I already seen just after a few flights that the paint is starting to come off, so they probably won't look too pretty after a while. So if you purchase this one, be prepared to actually have something else that absorbs some of the landing impact, because as is, I think you will be disappointed especially if you have land on hard surfaces. This will just bounce and look bad. But I mean, it flies really good. It's a nice slow flying RC airplane with flaps. Also, it does slow down. I did a 10% and 20% mix for half flap and full flaps. And although the specifications call for a 1300 milliamp 3S battery, I didn't experience any difference when I had the heavier 2200 milliamp battery. So I think the added flight time, maybe you get like 2 more minutes on the 2200. I would certainly recommend the 2200 over the 1300 for this one. So I mean, it's a nicely featured RC airplane with flaps, and you have this top feeder as well. It's a forgiving RC airplane. So I mean, surely a viable option from a beginner's perspective.